everyone, welcome back to Punk Paisley. This is your host Chris, and today's video is going to take a look at Dustbin Full of Rubbish, which is an excellent bootleg compilation of 60s garage and psych, we might say freak beat and psych, from 1993. It appears I purchased this album in 1993. Probably at the Philadelphia Record Exchange. In fact, that price tag tells me almost definitely from there. I paid $9.99 plus applicable sales tax. I looked that up, and it looks like that would be $22.30 plus tax in today's dollars. So pretty good buy. It'll cost you a little bit more than that. We'll get to that at the end of the video if you're looking for a copy of this now. But certainly an album that I think that nobody else on YouTube is going to cover. And, I had this shirt that matches the cover. So why not do a video about the record? This originally was happenstance, but you got to roll with it when you have a happy accident like that. So this is about the most British thing ever. It says Rare and Unreleased 60s Obscurities from the UK, and its title is Dustbin Full of Rubbish, which is not the way that an American would phrase things at all. We don't really say dustbin. We'd say something's a trash can, probably, and rubbish is going to be used metaphorically in American English. We're probably going to use it in the phrase a load of rubbish, but when it comes to physical trash, garbage, that's not really something Americans are likely to say. There is a trash can. It's hard to tell because it's 1993 and the photo reproduction is a little dark, but there is a trash can pictured on the front cover with some tapes that were discovered or collected by some very completist psych collector who put this out. It is on Grant's Records, which is a one-off. The one-off on this label, which is a bootleg label. There is no other release according to the usual music databases on that label. And it says on the back here in some psychedelic lettering, "You struck gold with nuggets, dug pebbles, moved boulders, digged deep into the rubble, now dive into the rubbish." We may say that this is just volume 1 because there was not another volume of this. To my knowledge, please do let me know if I'm wrong about that. I only noticed when I was preparing to do this video that the songs on here are in chronological order. We have songs from 1965 through 1968, most of which were unreleased, a few of which not. We'll get into detail on that, and I'm going to do a review as I normally do it, which is going to be numerical ratings of 1 through 10 for each track. And the X Factor, which is the total package of the album weighted as another track, 1 through 10. And we'll weigh that out and see whether or not this is a good deal and how you can get your hands on a copy. All right, we're going to start with side 1. I need the readers because I took some notes. The Four Leaf Clovers, a band that I have never heard of before. According to the back of this record, an Oak demo disc from 1965 with a track called All Right Girl. This sounds like a band that was definitely listening to early Who, which is not the worst thing at all. Sounds very, very cutting edge 1965. I gave the song a 7. It's a good track. If you enjoy early Who, you'll probably enjoy this. The song does suffer a little from a very simplistic lyric, like Barney the Dinosaur level, I love you, you love me, 62, 63 Beatles. Not the strongest lyric, but if you can get past that, that's a pretty good song. 1965's only showing on this album. Then we move to The Name, an apparently Welsh band who had a track called Hello Edith, unreleased 1966 acetate. It says, I definitely have heard the song Hello Edith on at least one other psych compilation, and that was, I looked it up, it's on Side Trips Volume 6. However, I think it might be on one of the Incredible Sound Show Stories albums or something like that, because I've definitely heard the song otherwise. Now, the song itself, it sounds to me a bit like some early Pink Floyd, maybe mixed with some mid-60s Beatles. There's a little Circus Calliope in there. I think it's quite a good song. I liked it on the other compilations as well. I think I heard it here first because I would have bought this in '93. I was already familiar with the song when I heard it on other compilations, I suppose. I gave it an 8, and that brings us to a rating of 7.5 for the album as a whole. In the third position on the LP, we have Steam Beating Association, a band about which there's basically no, maybe even studio project about which there's no information on the internet. It says unreleased demo tape backtrack only 1966. There's a track called Backstage Gold, which we don't even really know if that's the title of the song or just what they labeled it temporarily, because it is not a full song. It's not a full song in the sense that it cuts off time-wise. It's a backing track, which was apparently meant to get a vocal and maybe some other effects on it. As it stands, it's pretty simple. It's all about the bass work. It ends up being an instrumental. The bass lines are interesting. The guitarist and the drummer are not given overly much to do. It's fairly simplistic. It's an unfinished song. I give it a 4 as a result. And that brings us down to a 6.3 overall for the album. In the next two places, 4th and 5th place on the album, we have a band that any psych fans should be well familiar with, to use a British phrasing, and that is the band Tomorrow. Tomorrow is best known for their one LP, Tomorrow featuring Keith West, that they put out. And these two tracks, which were taken live from the BBC session in 1967, very probably a John Peel-related session, maybe even from the Perfume Garden show. But that was... These are Revolution and Three Jolly Little Dwarfs, both of which are peak 1967. We could definitely use the word classic. Revolution is an absolute classic. It's the heavier of the two tracks. It's just an excellent classic psych song. Not only will I say that I've heard these two songs before from Tomorrow, but I've actually heard these BBC recordings before on other compilations, although they may have appeared here first. I'm not quite sure which. I'm not sure where they pop up first, but in any event, Revolution is a solid 8, which brings us up to a 6.75, just absolutely classic, heavier guitar, psych. Three Jolly Little Dwarfs is a little better than I remember it. It's twee, it's sort of maximum twee. I mean, it's a song about jolly little dwarfs. They use the word jolly. If you're putting out a compilation called something like Toffee Treacle Tea Time Tossers, this song should be on there. Having said that, it is better than I remembered it in retrospect. The song does pick up a little bit, and it's not totally twee. There is a little bit of a heavier side to it. And I give that an 8 as well, which brings us up to a 7 rating for the album. Little wah-wah on there. In the final position, final two tracks, 6 and 7 on side 1, you have another classic sort of freak beat into psych band from Britain that people who are fans of this sort of thing, this sort of compilation, are also very well familiar with, who are The Action. You have heard numerous Action songs distributed on other psych compilations. They did better releasing singles. I don't think they had a lot of commercial success. The Action and Tomorrow had the most commercial success of any of these bands, but The Action, I know, had an unreleased album, and it says here that these are two tracks from the 1968 unreleased LP, which I think those tracks have been collected and are available in CD form as the Lost album now. So that's another way you can hear them. But these two songs are called Brain and Little Boy. These songs are very much have small faces written on them, small faces into faces, freak beat working its way into something a bit more complex, things that eventually become prog and more elaborate psychedelia. Brain, I think, is a very good song. It is demo quality, unfortunately, in its recording. I will say all of the songs on here, when there is a little suffering of sound quality, it's because of the originals. It's because of the sound quality of the originals, not the LP itself. The LP sounds to have been mastered extremely well. I gave the first track, Brain, an 8, bringing us up to a 7.17 because this channel does significant digits. And I gave Little Boy, which I could hear fitting in very well on Ogden's Nut Gone Flake. If you're a fan of that album, especially something like Song of a Baker, a track like that, then you're going to enjoy Little Boy. That might be my favorite song on the album. I give that track a 9, bringing us up to a 7.43 for side 1. There's something with these British guys when they were steeping themselves in blues and R&B and early rock and roll culture, when they were learning to play guitar, and there was that craze in the British art schools, and you get the Rolling Stones and all these other bands out of that. They've got a foot in Americana, and they've got a foot in British eccentricism and phrasing, and I think that there's a couple of lines from Little Boy which really illustrate that to me, and it really sort of stick in my head. There's the line, Daddy was a rich man, had £1 million. Okay, well, first off, Daddy seems a little American, but then it's £1 million. It's not dollars. and then the rhyme is, Mommy was a whore man way downtown, which, in addition to being a little risque, also sounds very American. Do British people say downtown? I mean, I guess Petula Clark sang downtown. But is that because of American influence or what? Downtown doesn't sound like a word to me that British people use. If I'm wrong about that, leave it in the comments. But and mommy, it's mommy with an O. Mommy. That's very American. Seems that little mix, that little thing that they have going on where, because they're still playing this blues-based music, a lot of the lyricism ends up still being sort of self-consciously American. But then you get to the currency, and it's like, oh well, you know, I'm still spending sterling. Okay, it's before decimalization even. So, you know, these guys are paying. They got shillings and whatnot going on here. Daddy was a rich man. He had 16 million shillings. All right, then we flip this record to side 2, and again we have to talk about the Britishness of it all. We have 4 tracks on side 2 from a band called Spiggy Topes. Spiggy Topes, who appear to have been Scottish and were from Aberdeen City. Could some Scot kindly inform me of what a Spiggy Tope is, if even you know? This could not possibly be more British. We're just making words up now. We're just making up words to mock Americans at this point. 4 songs, all of which are really much better than I remembered them. I'm glad that one of the cool things about making these videos is I get to revisit my record collection with fresh ears. Some of these things I hadn't listened to in a few years. So, and this, when was the last time I played the entire album all the way through? It might have been 1993. There's some really good stuff on here. But what I'm hearing from Spiggy Topes across their 4 tracks, I'm hearing the most psychedelic stuff from Country Joe and the Fish. I'm hearing, in no small part because of the flute, the Blues Project, some of their live stuff and some of their, you know, stuff, Cafe A Go-Go album stuff. I'm hearing some early Pink Floyd. These are all good, solid references. If you like that stuff, you're gonna like Spiggy Topes. Well, we'll get to the sound quality in a moment. And the vocal, the primary vocalist sounds somewhere in the mid-ground to me between Donovan and Cat Stevens, which is, again, not a bad thing. These are good influences. Melinda is an anti-war song, and it's a good one. And it's an 8. I quite enjoyed that. That brings us up to a 7.5 rating for the album. The second track, My Only Chance Is You. You have a very similar arrangement to the first track. There is, again, this jazzy flute. I think it's not quite as strong of a song overall, but still enjoyable. I gave it a 7, which brings us down to a 7.44 for the album. Now, for the next two tracks, even though it's still Spiggy Topes, somebody appears to have elbowed the engineer, and they turned up a couple of knobs a little bit. You get a little bit more bass, you get a little bit more bass guitar and drums, a little more electric guitar. For the third track, Love in the Wind, you get a slightly Middle Eastern sound, basically an instrumental. Sounds like something that could have come off of a soundtrack of a movie in about 1967. By the way, it does say that this is from an unreleased 1967 demo tape, so you're not hearing Spiggy Topes probably anywhere else. And I think it's a strong track. It's a 7. That brings us down to a 7.4 for the album, still quite high. The fourth track from Spiggy Topes is a little faster paced pop, rock, psych, peak 1967. The lyric, Mr. Sullivan, it's one of these characters that's sort of the Beatles-inspired slice of life. Let's look at this fictional person's life. The Eleanor Rigby type inspired lyric, although the song does not sound like that at all. There's a lot more guitar going on here. Definitely awesome stuff. I give it a 9. Ties for my best track on the album, bringing us up to a 7.55 on the record. The final 3 tracks on the album are from Marble Greer's Toy Shop. Could we get any more treacle toffee toy shop British twee naming than Marble Greer's Toy Shop? We've sort of hit a peak with that. This is apparently from a BBC Radio 1 night ride session, which sounds very interesting indeed. If you like this sort of thing, you're going to like this sort of thing. First track, Beyond and Before, is bass-driven 60s pop rock. A little bit of wah-wah in there. I give it a 7. Brings us down to a 7.5 for the album. The second of their 3 tracks, Images of You and Me. You have a little bit more lead guitar work on that one. Mid-paced track, a little bit of wah-wah. I like it. I give it a 7, bringing us down to a 7.46. And rounding things off, there's a track called Janetta, which I wrote down. Sounds to me like a not entirely finished, somewhat lesser track that could have been off of the Pretty Things SF Sorrow LP, or maybe one of their Alexander outtakes, their Electric Banana stuff. Good solid stuff. I give that a 7 as well, bringing us down to a 7.43 for the tracks on the album. And now we get to the rating for the album overall, the package. Well, I'm going to say that would be pretty damn high. Now, you have a minimal amount of information about where they got these tracks on the back. I would have liked just a little bit more information about the bands. Maybe a little more text on the back or an insert. Sound quality is generally really high considering what you're getting here. I think the only misstep, if any, unless you would have to be a total completist fanatic to want the Steam Beating Association partial song. But that might be the only possible misstep here. It's a wonderful collection that hangs together well, that hangs together thematically of these songs. The mastering on the album, I think, is great. I very much appreciate the original art on here and the lettering. It tells you exactly what you're going to get. I appreciate even the fact that there is the one color thrown in on the printing so that it's not entirely black and white. You do get a couple of photos, 3 photos reproduced of the bands that you can actually find photos of. I don't mind that one a little bit. Overall, really high quality. Really high quality for a bootleg like this. I give that a 9. And that brings us to, let me check my math here. That brings us to a 7.53 for this album. If you like this kind of thing, you want a Dustbin Full of Rubbish. I think it's an overlooked collection. It's a good LP, and it's available. Unlike the last album I did a review of, you can actually get copies of this. Right now, it looks like $24.99 plus postage for a very clean copy of this in the United States on disc. Most of the available copies of this record are in continental Europe, and I don't think a whole lot made them to the United States. So I saw 1 copy available in the US. Otherwise, if you're in the US and you're buying this from Europe with postage, you could probably expect to pay in the low $32-ish range, which for this type of thing, for a very limited press run of something that came out in the 90s, of otherwise largely unavailable tracks, I think 1, 2, 3, I think 5 of these songs out of, I think 14, 5 out of the 14 songs are readily available somewhere else. I think a good buy, 7.53. I've said this before. Try doing this with one of your own albums at home using that system. You don't end up with a lot of things that rate 7.53 or higher. So a good buy, recommended. If you like the psych, go for it. If you like this sort of content and you would like me to shine more of a focus on my 40-year-old record collection of mostly not large press run stuff like this, then by all means, please subscribe. I think only about 20% of my viewers are subscribers right now. I definitely like to get those numbers up. You all understand the reasons for that. Like, subscribe, share. Let me know what you think in the comments. I do read the comments. I appreciate them and I respond. This is Chris again from Punk Paisley reminding you to keep on rocking in the unfree world.